Hey everybody, welcome to another Simulacra Developer Diary video. My name's CJ. I want to apologize ahead of time. I'm a little under the weather, so hopefully I'll be able to keep everything coherent, concise, all of those C words. But if it gets a little rambly, it's just kind of either because I'm a little sick or because there's a lot of stuff to go over. And I also am going to try to play the game a little bit more, so there's more stuff to look at, but I'm not an experienced streamer or anything like that, so if I just kind of drop off, it's because I need a little bit more practice. Anyways, so this milestone is going to be primarily focused on gameplay, and so to that end I've been working on kind of refactoring the weapon system, which was previously just hard-coded into the character. So now it's actually separated out into individual weapons, and I'm just kind of trying to work out what kind of different weapon profiles make sense right now. So currently the main default weapon is kind of a single shot with a charge attack, and a rapid shot weapon is kind of was working on a little bit next. Doesn't work 100% the way I intended to, but it's supposed to be a little bit more of a kind of a rapid fire Uzi type weapon. So yeah. Also, I apologize right now, there's going to be a little bit of sound spam, a little kind of debug command spam. There's sound effects every time there's a projectile fired, which, especially with this next one, which is supposed to mimic a little bit more of a shotgun, is not ideal. So I apologize if it's a little loud. I will definitely be tuning that soon. So yeah, like I said, this is more of a kind of a shotgun style, less accurate, multiple projectiles every time you squeeze the trigger. And the burst shot is last, which is meant to be kind of like a every time you squeeze the trigger, it fires a short volley, or a burst. And all of these, I need to kind of figure out what works best in terms of the weaponry itself. If there's a kind of a charge attack that makes sense to go with that. So it's in no way balanced right now, but let's head out into the map and hopefully I'll be able to show you some of the gameplay as I kind of talk over some of the things I want to do moving forward. So the weaponry right now is going to stay pretty simple, using somewhat recognizable... Actually, I forgot there were enemies there. Using recognizable archetypes like shotguns or burst fire weaponry, that kind of thing. But I'm hoping to diversify that into an actual upgrade system where you're able to kind of cater what kind of... Actually, that's out of that's out of dudes. I don't need to destroy that. So you're able to cater to your particular play style, and then also as you're playing through the game, maybe the game gives you a particular kind of resource, or you find, I don't know if there's actually going to be plans, but as you're constructing these things, maybe the game itself will afford you the opportunity to experiment and try out new weapon types and kind of things of that nature. So, but I'm still looking at games like Metroid to keep the weaponry simple, but still coincide with your progression through the game. So, kind of I guess a blend of Metroid and XCOM would be a somewhat reasonable description. Oh, and I showed it off a little bit in animated GIF form, but this is the kind of particle effect. It's actually a material effect. It'll be supplemented with particles, but that's kind of the you diving into the equipment. Doesn't work 100% the way I wanted to. You see there's sometimes kind of pops and things, but at least works better than it did. So yeah, the other thing that I'm looking at in this map particularly, everything is handcrafted, and that's intentional. I really want everything to have at least the feel of something handcrafted, even if it's ends up being kind of a hybrid solution. And so the intention there is each of these encounters, as I put them in, I'm trying to diversify them as much as possible so that you are kind of having a fun, interesting encounter every time you come across one of these battles. Right now, obviously, they're still a bit dry. There's a little bit more stuff for the player to do, but it's in no way compelling. And that's just me trying to be as honest as possible with what's going on. But as I'm working on these things and making everything more solid, I'm trying to pay attention to the connective material or the not the connect sorry the pathing between the spaces, so that you've got a good amount of time in the encounters, good amount of time out of the encounters. And I also to that point, I don't intend for every encounter to be a combat encounter. Some of the spaces that you come across will be a little bit more kind of investigative in nature. And so I'm kind of hoping as you head out, I guess my pie in the sky ideal is every time you start a game, you will have some setup of these spaces, whether that's randomized at the start, or if it's a set thing that every time you go back to this place, it's an enemy encampment. Every time you go back to this place, it's like a dweller camp. And so I'm switching over to the shoreline to kind of illustrate a little bit more of that. But my hope is that every time you go to one of these places, that it's something a little bit fresh, a little bit new, and gives the you as the player, obviously this is very ugly. Like, there's a campfire as the heart of the camp, and then it spawns these little kind of pots in a random distribution around its radius. Not very compelling at the moment. But so kind of my hope is, looking at games like this War of Mine, you get access to a different kind of set of areas every time you play that game. And every time you play it, you get to know those areas. And you go, oh, I want to build this particular thing, so this area has a higher chance of me coming across those resources. But then as you head out, maybe your kind of decided intent was to head out and gather a particular kind of resource. But then as you're out, the things that you go across afford you different options and cause you to make a different decision. Oh, it can actually have. I was worried that all of those were floating. So right now, the split is clearly this is a purely randomized map, very ugly, very not functional. The other is highly handcrafted, but you get the exact same thing every single time. And so I'm hoping to explore the kind of a hybrid solution where I don't have to go in and handcraft every single one, so you get a lot of playing diversity, you get a lot of replayability, but you also get the feeling of something that's a little bit more handcrafted and not just this kind of weird scattershot approach. So, yeah. Sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was going with that. So, right now, this milestone is, as I said, focused on gameplay. So, first step was to get the player verbs a little bit more diverse with the weaponry. I will be definitely improving that. Again, keeping it a little bit more simple to begin with, so that it's a little bit more recognizable. People know what they're picking up, but hopefully grow that as time goes by into a fully fleshed out upgrade system. And I'll go in into a little bit more detail into that later as soon as I've kind of finalized a couple more decisions. And then next is working on the encounters, trying to get a little bit more context for the player to tell their own stories and encounter things that are fresh and new, and really, give the game a little bit more flavor. Like I said, there's stuff right now, but it's kind of like the just kind of the potatoes without any meat or substance. I guess forgive the expression if you're a vegetarian or anything. But yeah, so moving forward, I think I mentioned this in the update video. Sorry, not the update video, but the milestone blog post. I'm moving to a build release that coincides with the milestones. I think that's a lot more, honestly, kind of respectful of people's time, as it gives you, builds that are a lot more play tested. They've got a lot more content for you to explore, and also I really want to be able to spread things out in such a way that not everyone has the time to play all of these builds. Not everyone has the time to watch all of these videos, and so I'm hoping to kind of diversify and spread, post more kind of picture galleries for people to look at, more of these videos, and really try to kind of make sure that there's enough content for everyone to kind of really enjoy and kind of I guess communicate kind of what I'm trying to shoot for. I guess the only other thing is that I did start up a thread on IndieDB. Sorry, can't talk. The IndieDB page, and if you have any thoughts or comments, definitely post there. Post feedback to any of these things that I'm putting out there. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the matter. So, anyways, thank you again for your patience, both with me today, but also just in general. I really appreciate you taking the time to look at this, because I'm having a huge amount of fun working on it, and I hope everyone is enjoying what's putting out there. So, thank you again. Have a fantastic weekend. Play lots of fun games. I mentioned in the blog post I'm having a blast playing through a bunch of different things. Right now, particularly Dragon's Dogma is really, really, really fun. If you haven't given that game a chance, definitely try it out. Very fun action RPG. So, yeah, thank you again for your time, and take good care of yourselves. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.